Peter Lucas. This is the Niner Fanatic Podcast. I got with me today the long lost Chris Polo. Haven't had him on in a minute, but I'm excited to have him on today. It's the off season. We're talking combine, but I'm going to get into the intro. So let's go. Once again, it is Peter Lucas. I got with me today Chris Polo, and this is the Niner Fanatic Podcast. You can see this on YouTube. You can see it on Facebook. You can see it on Twitter. And if you don't want to look at my face, you can always get the audio anywhere where you can get your audio podcast. But I don't care where you get it, just get it. But Chris, I haven't seen you in a minute. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find you on the socials and where they can find your channel?
Yeah, thanks for having me back, man. So you can find me on Twitter. My ad is Chris Polo 2 underscores. My channel is the Polo Show. If you go to my Twitter, there's a link tree in the bio that has the link to all of it right there. At 350 subscribers, I'm going to give away a Talanoa Hufanga jersey. I did a Nick Bosa jersey giveaway at 150, so 350 will be the next one. But yeah, it's great to be back here. This is the first show I ever went on, so it's good to be back.
Yeah. See, just remember, I keep because you've got like you're like Jamaican, like you've got like 50 jobs now, and like
Do
so I know you're a busy man, but I feel like I started all of it. But so I mean, I just get residuals when the checks start coming in. Like,
exactly.
But say what's up to Damien? Appreciate you coming through, fam. Like Niner family, absolutely. And but so the combine, it's the off season. Combine got in it kind of full swing today, and we're gonna I drew up some notes that things to talk about, but in true Niner fashion at the last minute, like I saw a bunch of other things that happened later on in the day, so we're gonna talk about those too. But the first thing I want to talk about is really quick is Robbie Gould and the fact that the 49ers basically admitted that they're looking at kickers now. So do you think should they risk it in the playoffs by going with the rookie kicker, or should they? I mean, people were talking about them franchising Robbie Gould. Do you think that is an option, or do you think that they just go rookie?
Ideally, I'd hope that they just keep Robbie Gould. I can understand why they are looking at a younger kicker, though, and just looking to kind of get a new, fresh leg in there, is just because Robbie Gould didn't look as automatic this year. I'm not saying he was bad, but there are some kicks this year where it was like it starts to come in the back of your head, like, when is this guy going to fall off a cliff? Because he is getting up there in age, and he's been so good in the playoffs and so reliable. At some point, that kicker is going to fall off. And how much money you're going to keep paying him as he's getting up there in age. And you have these other contract extensions you need to address, and you have these salary cap issues where you're going to have to be restructuring a bunch of guys. You really want to have to restructure guys so you can keep a kicker, when at the end of the day, the goal is to be scoring touchdowns, not kicking field goals. And also, one thing I thought that was pretty weird was Robbie Gould doing the kickoffs all year. It was killing me, especially toward the end of the year. Robbie Gould on those kickoffs, or the Cowboys game too. Like, this dude can't get it to the back of the end zone. And at first, the beginning of the year, I thought maybe it's strategy. I just don't think he has the leg to do it. So I'm not opposed to going after a rookie kicker. I don't really trust young kickers. I really prefer you can just find a solid, reliable veteran kicker. But, they all have to come in the league at some point. And I think that they have a lot of different issues besides kicker that are a higher priority. So if saving money by going with a rookie at kicker helps them keep another underrated piece that will play a role on offense or defense, or even someone on special teams, I'm okay with it. I am gonna miss Robbie Gold's reliable leg in the playoffs if he does go, but at the end of the day, dude, kickers are not the reason that they've been held back from Super Bowls. It's been different things, especially the quarterback position. So if they have to go with a younger kicker, I'm totally fine with it. Um, I'd prefer Robbie Gold stays, though. I just don't know if I would want to franchise tag Robbie Gold.
It'd be like a little over 5 million, which is probably what he'd be making anyway.
Okay. Well, it really depends. Like, I also know that Robbie Gold didn't exactly want to be here, if we remember that.
Yeah.
How he kind of wanted to go back to Chicago. So I'm not trying to get into like this whole like negotiation headache with a freaking kicker who is up there in age. So kickers are like so replaceable. I know Robbie Gold, you can probably consider him as one of the higher end kickers, but like I said, how long does that last? So many different things to worry about right now. I'm really looking at like Emmanuel Mosley. I'm looking at like Jimmy Ward, or I don't think Azeez Al-Shaair comes back, but that's another free agent that's on the Niners roster. There's also a hole at right tackle. So I'm not really too worried about Robbie Gold. If he stays, he stays. If he goes, he goes. They have more important needs.
Yeah, and before I get to my rebuttal, make sure that you give this video a like. Make sure that you give us both a subscribe. Make sure that you hit the bell notification so that you know when I go live, and as well as Chris. So, but I digress. Back into the kicker. I just know that it's going to come down to, with the 49ers luck, like it's going to come down to it's going to be a tie game in the NFC Championship game, and they're going to get down there with a rookie kicker, and he's going to shank it. And then they're going to lose in overtime. I just feel like that is the 49ers luck, and I feel like they have to put themselves into, they find new and interesting ways to put themselves in a better position than what they were the year prior whenever they've made mistakes. So I don't know that they want to add. I think that they're a little shell shocked themselves, and they're not going to want to just say, well, let's just add this to the list of things that we need now. It's not. I agree with you about Robbie Gold being up there in age, but kickers go pretty late into their
Yeah, they
career.
do.
Yeah,
It's just more because I saw some of his kicks this year where it didn't feel. I don't know if you got the feeling it didn't feel like it was the same Robbie Gold from the year before, and those kickoffs, just seeing how his legs not there. If they're not going to have Mitch Wishnowsky doing kickoffs, I'm not saying I want Robbie Gold gone, but I wouldn't mind moving on. There are good young kickers. I mean, like Evan McPherson just played his second season. He's an amazing kicker. You might end up with someone really good. Bryant just brought up Jake Moody. Like there's good kickers out there. It's obviously a lot more comfortable when you have a veteran like Robbie Gold, but at some point you're going to have to move on from them. And if he's going to be too much, he's going to be too much.
Yeah, I get it. I think that once we see what restructures they're going to do and how much space they actually open up, I think that we're going to get a better idea of what the plan is as far. But the fact that they're even looking at kickers, I think even that is a negotiation tactic in itself.
It probably is. At the end of the day, that's probably what it is. That's how they roll. We know this. We know how this goes with them.
It's all mind games.
I actually expect Robbie Gold to be back. It's just
me too.
It's just the stuff that they do.
I know that Kyle has got to be a little bit shell shocked and a little bit just thinking that whatever bad can happen will, and he's just at a point to where he'll do anything just to make sure that nothing weird happens. But I think they took that because Mitch Wishnowsky at one point was doing kickoffs, but I think they took it away from him after a while. But yeah, like Brian's point, but he said Robbie's really good and affordable. I don't think he's I get the feeling that he's staying too, but I wouldn't be shocked because the 49ers don't do anything that we think that they should do ever.
He's affordable, right? But when you hear all the rumors about all the contracts they're looking to restructure and the needs that they have, like Who is going to play safety? Who is going to play nickel? Are they going to bring Mosley back? They have no starting right tackle right now. They have no starting center right now. Daniel Brunskill's also a free agent. So when we're kind of looking at affordable, he is affordable, but we don't really know what the Niners are planning to fill those other holes yet. And I think that those needs are going to come way before they even start to worry about kicker. Like for me, for quarterback injuries, I know not a lot of it is quarterback standing in the pocket, but when the injuries were happening, you kind of start to worry like, okay, we ran out of quarterbacks and that's what stopped us from really having a serious shot in the NFC title game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to go into next year with Colton McKivitz as starting right tackle.
Yeah.
I don't think McGlinchey will end up coming back because it sounds more and more like he's going to be priced out for them. I don't see another free agent that's an obvious upgrade that they could afford, but I could see them using some picks. Like, I don't know. There's going to be holes like that, and they're going to have some sacrifices because they're going to have to commit to like that Deebo Samuel salary. They're going to have to pay Nick Bosa, like we were talking about. Brandon Ayuk, you have to make a decision on that too. So it just depends. He's definitely affordable. It just depends what are they going to be able to pull off with certain restructures? Who are they targeting in free agency this year? Like Robbie Gould's a good kicker, but I would rather have a really good starting right tackle.
Yeah.
Or a really good safety. Or Emmanuel Mosley back, in all honesty.
Yeah, wouldn't we all? But on from kickers, because we're not going to make a whole show about kickers. Like that's just not going to do it. But I want to talk about Bosa. So and I wrote this question before I even saw the interview he had with Sherman today. But why do you think the 49ers are waiting to? I know that this is what they do. They wait till August to do all their big big contracts, restructure contracts or whatever, extending contracts. But why do they do it? Does anybody know officially why they do it? Or is that just we just chalk it up to that's what they do?
That's the way they negotiate. I don't know why. No clue. This is just how it always goes. They always wait till camp. They wait till the last second. Now the Deebo things looked like it was getting a little kind of crazy last year. And we could say, well, maybe you don't want to play around with that again with Nick Bosa. The reality is they're probably still going to do the same thing. And I think it's so routine now that the players and the agents know it too. I feel like a lot of it was Deebo and his camp kind of sitting there like, no, after the year I just had, we're not going to do this thing you guys like to do all the time. I know what I'm worth. Just stop wasting time. Maybe Nick Bosa's camp starts to get like that. I really don't feel like they will. And the Bosas are they're really put together with their business. And I think that they're going to be just as firm. So the way Parag is, the way the Niners front office is, and negotiating with Bosa's camp, it'll probably be one of those very last second extensions. Like, I don't see this being something where, day one of camp comes around and we're sitting here like, oh, we just got the news about a Bosa extension. I think it's going to be dragged on. It's going to go for a while, but they will get it done. And he's going to be like the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL.
Yes.
It's going to be a big deal, but it's just going to take a while. It's just how they are all the time. And Jimmy Ward kind of talked about that. I think he was on an Instagram Live one time, and he was talking about how that's just the way Parag and all those guys negotiate, and it's just something they know. They're used to it.
And honestly, after it's all was said and done, Deebo came out and said that he doesn't have any ill will. It's all business. He loves Kyle. He loves this organization. So I think it's more just the fans get pissed off. I'm sure the agents get pissed off by it, but the reality is the players don't care as long as they get paid. And Bosa, I don't think there's going to be a bunch of annex in this whole negotiation. I think that it's going to be, they're putting out there right away that it's going to happen in August, and that's the way it's going to go. It's not going to go before. There's not going to be any nonsense around, oh well, it's he's scrubbing stuff off of his Instagram and all that kind of stuff. I don't think there's going to be any of that. And but Bosa, I mean, because it's so obvious with Bosa. With Debo, it was a little different. Everybody assumed he was going to get paid, but it was a little different because it was the numbers. It was well, how do you pay him? Or you're paying him as a receiver that runs the ball a lot. Well, I mean, that puts him in harm's way. And are they going to try and get a discount because of that? And like all that kind of nonsense. There is no mistaking what's going to happen with Bosa.
Mm-hmm.
he is going to give you 15 plus sacks a season, as long, like, barring injury. And yeah, so like that's what he's the defensive player of the year. So yes, the piggy bank is about to get smashed completely open, and yeah, it is what it is. But Brian asked who's a really good right tackle that's available. Um, I don't know. If you want something, you're gonna have to give away something else. McGlinchey is a serviceable right tackle. There is no upgrade available in free agency as far as I can see. But I know that people were talking about what was his name, Lewin from the Titans, but he's a left tackle. He made it clear that he wants to be a left tackle.
And not only that, he's torn his ACL like twice in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
I'm staying away from that.
Yeah, I don't think the Niners want any parts of that.
Yeah.
So it it would have to be somebody that they draft. And if we know anything about the Niners, unless you're Spencer Burford and you just balled out in all camp and OTAs and you proved yourself right away, they're probably not going to start him if they draft somebody. So I don't really necessarily see. I think that they're going to use somebody in house, whether that means kicking Spencer Burford out to right tackle. I don't know. We won't know until later, what they plan on doing for that right tackle spot. But we've seen before. We've been nervous about it, and the 49ers had one of the best offensive lines in the league last year. Whether we want to get upset about the pass protection occasionally or not, that's the reality. Is statistically they were one of the best offensive lines in the league. And the truth of the matter is that most teams don't have a good offensive line. That's just the way it is in the NFL now. It's a premium. So, go ahead.
It's possible Burford slides out to right tackle. I've been listening more and more, and after kind of hearing a lot of different people talk about it, I can kind of see how it would make more and more sense. And you kind of remember Aaron Banks, they had him playing right guard a lot, like when he first got onto the team. He didn't really play in his rookie season, but when he was on the field, we kind of thought like, oh, is he moving to right guard? But now he's at the left side, and he had a really good second season. So if Burford ends up having like that type of second season, kind of like Aaron Banks did, but they end up sliding him out to right tackle, I think it'd be interesting. I just don't. It's not even just the fact that McGlinchey's gone. It's that you don't have a starting center, and Daniel Brunskill, who rotated with Burford at right guard, is also a free agent. So the whole O-line is a concern, and that's kind of what we thought last year. And I think a lot of people were worried when Laken Tomlinson was leaving, and luckily, like I said, Aaron Banks was able to fill that need. But again, like it's another one of those holes, and I just get nervous when I have quarterbacks who kept getting injured. I don't want to have that right tackle spot be like Colton McKivitz. That's going to be a problem. And I think I remember reading somewhere maybe a month ago that they do view Colton McKivitz as the next best tackle on the roster behind McGlinchey. That's not a good sign. So they're going to draft tackles regardless, but it's going to be interesting to see if maybe Shanahan does kind of have to be forced to trust some rookies to start, kind of like the way he trusted Burford this year. But Burford kind of came in camp and I guess made it clear he should be the starting right guard. Is there going to be someone else who does that next year? Does Jason Poe step up and kind of really compete for that starting center job? I know Zakelj, they're kind of looking into taking that spot. Does Jalen Moore actually step into the role of a guard? I have no idea. So there's going to be definitely not tackle, but I don't know. So it's going to be a lot of competition on the line, and that's kind of what I thought it was going to be last year, and it was, and we're going to keep getting that same thing. But the reason they do need to keep drafting these offensive linemen is because whether it's Trey or Brock, whoever the QB of the future is, you need an offensive line that they can build with the next few years. And also another reason you keep drafting tackles is Trent Williams, as great as he is, he's not getting younger either. So you better start getting a little younger just in case. But if you're able to win while Trent Williams is playing, great. But these quarterbacks are supposed to be here. If Trey works out the way they want to, he's supposed to be here for the next 10 years. Trent's not gonna be here like that. So it's gonna be interesting to see how they build this O-line, because it's starting to be filled with a lot of young guys on there.
Yeah, but I think that they're setting themselves up for the future. I mean, you got to think
Yeah.
about this. People want Brendel gone. Like they think that he's going to be priced out of the market, but I don't think so. I think that they can get him for relatively cheaper than we think. I don't think there's a
Yeah.
lot of teams that need a center, and I mean, the man was a Pro Bowl alternate. Which means that he was definitely serviceable. Is Nick Sakel ready? We don't know. They've been talking about him possibly being the center of the future. The 49ers keep everything so tight-lipped that we have no clue as to what the plan is. And we probably won't have any clue about it until we get closer to training camp. Probably. Even in OTAs, I don't think that they're going to necessarily put all their cards on the table. So we got a funny Rams fan in the chat. I don't know if you saw it, but yeah, it always cracks me up. Ram fans, they get so excited. I get it. You got your second ring. It's fun. I know it's fun for you, but now you're at the bottom of the barrel again. So you can pull your way. You got another 20 years to go, and maybe you might claw your way up to do something again. But the reality is you guys are a dumpster fire right now. And
the funniest thing is the head coach just oh, team's shitty now. I think I might want to go do TV. Like, the fact that we have to start really thinking, is Sean McVay really going to move on from coaching just because his team is now ass? Like, that's just really funny. So they're going to have to be worrying about that every year. They're going to be worrying about Aaron Donald every year. It looks like they might have to get rid of Jalen Ramsey because of the cap space. They just cut Bobby Wagner, which I think is hilarious.
He asked to be cut. That's funny. I mean, that tells you all you need to know about that dumpster fire. That is what it is. I mean, sorry, Jimmy, but I mean, you're going to be rooting on a perennial loser for a while. So who knows what's going to happen with Matt Stafford? Who knows? But anyway, but yeah, what's going on to Bebop Jones? I see him fighting the good fight in the chat. Appreciate you. And but yeah, Brian's doing the same. But yeah, I just feel like it's, for whatever reason, I feel like it's going to be okay. I think the 49ers have one of the best coaching staffs in the league. They make whoever work. It always seems to work. I mean, think about it. They've been in the NFC Championship 3 of the last 4 years. They've been in the Super Bowl once. So and last year we thought that the middle of the line was going to be the problem, and it turned out it wasn't a problem. But let's move on real quick to so Jennings signs his tender. He's coming back, and we all kind of figured that was going to happen. He was a restricted free agent, but the reason why I bring him up, do you think Jennings is in their long-term plans, and how valuable is the role that he plays?
I mean, long-term, it's tough to say because, I mean, that's why I do feel like I don't know if Debo makes it his entire contract on that extension, just because of the Ayuk salary and the fact that Debo's a little older. They may have to make a decision at some point at wide receiver there. So Juwan Jennings, I would love him to be in the long-term plans because, we call him third and Juwan, but his blocking is also really good. He's one of the best blocking receivers on the team. He's kind of like what I feel like Kendrick Bourne, kind of how Kendrick Bourne had that role on third down in the 2019 season, where he was a really reliable threat. He was kind of a taller body, and Juwan Jennings can be that. And sometimes he can get a little inconsistent with his hands, and sometimes he has some drops. But when Juwan's balling, remember not this past season, but the season before that, I don't remember the exact numbers, so I'm just kind of using this as an example. But I remember it was like 23 of his 28 catches or something like that went for a first down or a touchdown. Like, that's really valuable, especially when you have a quarterback like Trey Lance or Brock Purdy, right? Depending who's starting, two really young quarterbacks. And to have someone on third down that can be a really reliable threat and also be a good blocker in the running game, which is really important in this scheme, I'd love to keep him around, especially I don't think he's a very expensive receiver. So as long as they keep him in house, I'm all for it. I think that wide receiver, you kind of look to draft one every year anyways because of all the
Hmm.
talent that's pumped out at wide receiver every single year. So they'll probably draft another one this year. We didn't really get to see Danny Gray all that much last year because he's more of a Trey Lance pick. And I kind of wrote about how I think that's going to be one of these sophomore year players that ends up having a big leap in their production. As assuming Trey's playing, I think we're going to get to see more Danny Gray being integrated into the offense instead of just being a clear out or a decoy. So, um, you know, you never know. But Jawan Jennings is a type of receiver that they don't really have much of, which is that big body, could be a third down red zone threat, and it's also just really physical and a blocker. So they don't have many guys like that. So I'd love to keep him around to kind of make sure we keep that level of physicality.
Yeah, like I think it's going to be telling this season who they draft
Yeah,
this season. Like if they draft, because remember what they did with the Z, they put a second round tender on him last year to keep him around
they
for that
did.
last year, and now he's probably going somewhere. He's probably going to the Texans, but he's going somewhere else
Yeah,
probably. And I think the same could probably be said for Jawan, depending on who they draft this year, because I do think that his role of being that big bodied wide receiver, that Kendrick Bourne type,
yeah,
and I don't think that it can be understated the aspect that he brings of just being an irritant, like
yeah,
and blocking the garbage out of Jalen Ramsey and like all those other guys, and just getting in people's face, so. I think that that is an underrated part. He's just a great blocker. He's a really physical type of player, and don't think that doesn't wear down defenses. So
yeah.
I think that that is an aspect that the 49ers enjoy with the group of receivers that they have, and I think that that's something that they want to continue. So it'll be interesting to see. But the man, they are just going to town in there. It
Oh, yeah, they're
is,
going at it.
yeah. But real quick, I want to talk about Shanny and the fact that he's not at the combine. Do you think it's a big deal? But why does he feel it's not important to see the prospects and meet them in person?
I don't know. Sometimes Kyle Shanahan does some things that just seems weird to us.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the way that he's built this roster and the personnel decisions he's made, aside from keeping Jimmy as a starter for so long, I can't really question him. I can't like maybe he trusts his film, maybe he trusts his scouting reports. I don't know, but um, yeah, I don't know. With that, I really just can't question him. So, every coach has their own process, and he's got his own processes, and sometimes we can kind of feel like he comes across as this like not that personable guy, but then when you hear the way that the players talk about him and how much they love him, and you see him partying in Cabo with a bunch of guys that are his team captains, like he's obviously a really cool dude and fun coach to be around, but it's just he also coaches pretty rigid. So if he feels really like he has his own set ways, and to us, it might seem kind of weird. And every time we try to question it, either his defenders on Twitter get really mad, or he starts to like give you a little bit of attitude in a press conference about it, which we've seen sometimes. Um, but at this point, dude, 3 conference championships, a Super Bowl appearance, building one of the most consistent rosters in football the last handful of years. I can't really question it. If he doesn't feel like he needs to be meeting these prospects in person, if he's trusting the tape, or if he trusts the scouts who have been going out there and seeing these players firsthand, so be it. Whatever they've been doing the last handful of years, it's working because guys are getting paid, coaches are getting paid too, and getting hired. So whatever they're doing right now, it's working. The one thing that hasn't worked is they just haven't figured out the QB spot.
Yeah,
That's really
that
it.
is the one spot. But I agree with you. I don't necessarily think I think it shows some trust by Shanny, and I think Lynch talked about the scouts. I was really impressed. I talked about it on my show yesterday that I was really impressed with Lynch talking about his scouting department and how much they value that scouting department. And I think that Shanny is starting to really, I think that I'm hoping that he starts to give more and more control to that scouting department, and maybe he'll just allow them to do the first and second when we finally get first and second round picks. Like the that he'll start letting them make those picks because they've proven in the mid to later rounds they're money, and it's just like, why not? Like, why wouldn't you trust the experts and the guys that have been watching these guys for some of them have been watching some of these guys for years. So they know these players inside and out. And yeah, I think Shanny thinks that, they can do everything through Zoom. I'm a personal believer that you have to meet somebody in person. I think you want to see exactly how big that guy looks in person. And there's something about talking to a person when he's right in front of you as opposed to talking to them over a screen, like that you get a better idea of who that person is. That's me.
Yeah.
Shanny, obviously, I mean, you can't argue with the production. And Lynch is there. Lynch is there, and he's on the ground. I think that, man, I've got to mention this. I have got to give kudos to Brad Graham.
Yeah.
To me right now, Brad Graham is the upper echelon like of Niner content creators right now. He is tireless and he comes up with he interviewed so many people today, gave us a whole bunch of names to look out for. The man is he is my he's quickly becoming my go-to. And it's but he did a great job. He had a bunch of good guys that he interviewed today, which I'm saying that they're good because they were already guys that I had already started mocking. But it's nice to hear him see the same things that I do. And I guess he has a guy that gives him guys to look at too. So that I thought that was an interesting tidbit. But yeah, like as far as Shanny goes, I mean, maybe he just doesn't need to be there. Like maybe the old ways just aren't necessarily the best ways, and they're obviously doing something right with the way that they're bringing in these guys. But
Yeah, no, I agree.
But with that being said, like I did want to talk about that Bosa interview real quick. Like the interview with Sherman today, he was really candid. Those guys obviously have a really good relationship. He talked a little bit about maybe Sherman tried to talk him into his brother coming and playing on the team and saying that they would break the NFL if that ever happened. And I kind of agree. Like if Joey could stay healthy, I mean it would be something else. But he did make a comment about Emmanuel Mosley and basically saying that he's expecting him to come back, and which I thought was a really good sign. I think that it's going to be more of like what I thought it was going to be, which is he's probably going to come back on a 1-year prove-it deal, and because I just don't picture anybody giving him a long-term deal with the injury history that he's had. And unfortunately for him, I think that the 49ers are going to have to they're probably just going to give him a prove it deal this year and see what. But Lynch mentioned yesterday that, they mentioned Lenore, and he said that Lenore gives them tremendous flexibility in what they can do going forward, which I think is absolutely true. Lenore got better and better as the season went on. And they're probably going to draft another guy this year. Do you think that Emmanuel Mosley? How do you feel about Emmanuel Mosley? And I think everybody wants to bring him back, but what's your prediction for what's going to happen with him?
I think he comes back. So I did a show this morning with Ted, and we talked about this. And for me, if I'm Emmanuel Mosley, right? Let's say a team offers me multiple years, right? But it's not at the number I was hoping for. And the reason the number's lower is because of my injury history and the fact that I'm coming off a torn ACL. Would I rather do that, as I'm going to be turning 27 in a few weeks and possibly about to have the best years of my career? Or should I bet on myself one more year on this defense that's going to put me in a really good position to succeed, obviously, and see if I can prove it and make that number go up the next year and
Mm-hmm.
then get a bag. Because I know some people were like looking at Emmanuel Mosley's market value on Spot Rack, and it's listed at like $16.6 million. I don't think that includes any context of the fact that he's coming off a torn ACL. Like, I don't know
Yeah.
a single NFL team that's going to look at Emmanuel Mosley, with all due respect, with the games he's missed and the fact that he's coming off an ACL tear, and say, here, take $16 million a
Yeah.
year on average out of my salary cap. No team's going to do that, not because he's not good enough to make that. It's just because it's not good business to be throwing money out there like that for a guy who's not even played all that much and just
Yeah.
coming off an ACL tear. That's a pretty serious injury. So I see him coming back to the Niners for 1 year, and I see it for that exact reason. The fact that Nick Bosa was confidently saying that he sees him coming back makes me believe it even more, because for the Niners, what they get from that is, I don't know if Jimmy Ward's going to come back. That is someone that maybe at this point they've kind of decided we are not going to be able to afford him, and maybe we don't want to pay
Mm-hmm.
someone who's in their 30s, because now you're going to have to start being a little. You have to start making tougher decisions now at this point, with the salary cap getting a little thin with all these star players on your team. So I think that they're looking at that nickel spot and Lenore's ascension. While I would be comfortable with Lenore stepping into the starting job next year, imagine having potentially the best years of Trevarius Ward and Emmanuel Mosley as your outside corners, and you let Lenore kind of grow into that nickel spot as he's
Mm-hmm.
going into his third season in the NFL. And also you still have guys like Samuel Womack that can develop.
That's
You can draft
yeah.
another corner. That seems a lot more comfortable. Also knowing you have Hufunga at safety. And I feel like Deshaun Gibson is not going to be very expensive to bring back either. And he actually had
Yeah.
a pretty good season, and he was around the ball a lot this year. He dropped multiple interceptions and still led the team in interceptions too. So
He said
if
today
you,
that he wants to come back too.
yeah, exactly. And I don't think he'd be expensive. So if you're able to
Yeah.
bring those two guys back, you have a really deep secondary. Because here's the thing, your linebacking core, you have the best linebacker in football. Drake Greenlaw is also an all-pro level talent. So
Mm-hmm.
if you have Ward, Mosley, Hufunga, Gibson, and your defensive line, that allows you to not worry as much, because Kinlaw, I don't think they're picking up that fifth-year option for him. I don't
No,
really know what to expect with
absolutely not.
Javon Kinlaw. I've kind of moved on mentally from the fact that
Exactly.
Javon Kinlaw is probably never going to pan out, at least on the Niners. It's just probably never really going to amount to much. Kalia Davis is an option that they drafted last year, but we have yet to see him.
Mm-hmm.
They could try to sign some under the radar interior tackles that Chris Kasarik turns into really good studs, but we don't really know who those guys are going to be. And
And
also
they're going to
the
draft
edge.
people.
Yeah, and they're going to draft people. And also the other side of Nick Bosa, it's not that great. I mean, Nick Bosa had 18 and a half sacks, but the next one was Samson Ebukam. Was it 4 or 5
Mm-hmm.
sacks? It was like 4, I think.
What's crazy, Drake
That's a
Jackson
huge
had
difference.
3 sacks. Had 3 sacks in very limited snaps.
Yes, I
And
wrote about that. It was like I think it was a few hundred less pass rushing snaps. Something. I might have double checked the numbers there,
yeah,
but it was a lot.
like so I think that he's going to be I think that he's going to be really good. I think it's another situation of he probably hit the rookie wall at some point, or he somehow got in Shanny's doghouse, and
Yeah.
they want him to try. I think he's going to probably be one of those guys that comes back, his body's all transformed, and and he's going to be ready to go hit camp on fire. And then we're going to be talking about that, and then we're going to have a bunch of guys waiting in the wings for next season. And I wouldn't be surprised if Kalia Davis looks really good, but there's a couple of guys in the draft, and then Brad gave me a couple of guys today to look at. So I'm going to be looking at tape on those guys, but there's a few different guys in the draft this is a pretty deep class for that 0 to 1 technique, run stuffing defensive tackle, which is really what they need. There's a whole bunch of DJ clones in this draft, and in free agency. Because I talked about a couple of guys. Andrew Billings is a guy that comes to mind from the Raiders, and then you've got Kalen Saunders, who I'm pretty sure that the Chiefs are going to re-sign. But Naughty, the guy that's probably going to leave because he's staying, is another guy that they can keep, that is just a run stuffing guy. He's kind of a body. He would just be a body. I would like to see Chris Kasurek work with him a little bit, but yeah, there's a lot of options as far as defensive interior, the defensive tackle spot, and even at edge. There's
Yeah,
a
the
lot of
edge too.
edges. Edges is deep in this draft. There's a lot of edges that do the same things that Samson Ebukam does, and they
Yep.
probably can get for cheaper.
And
So
and if you
it's
look at the
yeah,
blueprint of 2019, I know D4 didn't pan out. I know that obviously the injuries just derailed that whole situation, but that was the blueprint. You have Bosa and D Ford on both sides, and you collapse the pocket because when they were both playing, that team was just ferocious, that defense. And I just pull up the numbers, by the way. So yeah, Ebukam had 5 sacks, Drake Jackson had 3, but Drake Jackson had 244 fewer defensive snaps.
yeah, it's crazy. He
So
would have had, he would have had at least 8, probably,
yeah,
if he had played like that's the trajectory he was on. And I think he's going to be a monster. I know that everybody's kind of worried about him a little bit, but I think he's going to be the replacement. I think that they're going to sign some bodies or draft a guy to back him up. I think a name comes to mind that Brad was talking about, Byron Young out of Tennessee, and he had a couple other names, but I'm gonna have to look into those later. But Chris, it was great having you back, brother.
yeah,
And we're gonna get out of here, but great show, even with Ram fans trying to be Ram fans, but in the chat. But hey, I appreciate Bebop, Bryant, Damien fighting the good fight in the chat. Appreciate everybody for watching. Listen, why don't you tell everybody where they can get your content going forward?
yeah. Thanks again, Pete, for having me back on. So if you find me on Twitter, it's in my display name. It's at Chris Polo 2 underscores. My link tree's in my bio, so you can find all my content there. My YouTube channel is the Polo Show. I do 49ers coverage. I also do Warriors coverage. So we're going to be doing some offseason stuff and then see how the back end of the NBA season goes and see how the playoffs might pan out. And I also write for All 49ers FN for Grant Cohn, and I also am managing editor at Stadium Rant. So I also put articles out there, so I'll tweet those out. So that's all the content for me. But yeah, Pete, thanks for having me back on here.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man. It was a little bit of short notice, but yeah, like you always do a great job when you come on. And make sure you give this guy a follow. Make sure you give him a like and a subscribe to his channel. But yeah, make sure you give a like and make sure you give a subscribe to my channel and hit the bell so you can get the notifications when I go live. Also, make sure that you tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend so we can be friends every day and every week. But we're going to get out of here. But as always, have what we do every week. And I probably won't see you guys again till Monday. But as always, go Niners.
Yep.